about. Today, I want to talk to you about how to leverage the entrepreneurial, what we call leveraging the entrepreneurial edge, or the subtitle, How to Survive in the 21st Century Business Context. Okay? Real quick before we start, about myself, I'm a founder, co-founder of Journey to Creation. We're based, as you've just heard, in Berlin, with a subsidy in Beijing and a small subsidy in Toronto. My focus is very much on entrepreneurial potential in individuals and in organizations. So we work with individuals and organizations on leveraging that entrepreneurial potential. I headed until, I think last year was it? The last 8 years or so, I headed the entrepreneurship program at Cass Business School in London and taught at a few other universities as well. And I'm also a member of the American Society for Cybernetics, which means absolutely nothing. It's just there to impress you. Yes. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? These are some of the companies we work with, not a big deal. What we want to talk about today for the next, I think, 30 minutes, 40, 45? Okay. You know, I'm from Montenegro, so if you want me to speak for 45, you got to say I have 15 minutes, right? Because otherwise I drag on. Okay, I want to explore with you what it takes to be an organization, but not just an organization, also an individual in the 21st century, an organization that can succeed, an individual that can succeed in the 21st century. And already I tell you, everything I have to say from now on until the next 30, 45 minutes, hour and a half, okay? Everything I have to say is going to be very, very simple. Very simple. Yeah? The difficulty is not understanding it. It's extremely simple to understand it. The difficulty is to live it. So I ask you, everything I show you today, don't say, do I get it, but say, do I do it? Okay? And if you don't do it, pick one thing that you want to get better at and take that away. If you take one thing away from the talk, I brought 78 slides, I think. 78 slides. If you take one sentence from these 78 slides, I'm happy. Okay, the rest is just hot air. You guys can still hear me because I feel the mic is slipping. In the back, you're fine? Good. Okay, this side works, this side no. Let's try this. Are you guys fine in the back? Yeah. Hip hop, hooray. Yeah, very good. Okay. Good, let's kick off. All right, let's start off. What's the journey? 3 stages we want to take in this talk. Number 1, we want to look at, we talk about the changing business context. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Yeah, changing business context. That's just marketing talk. What's happening out there? Then we talk about entrepreneurship. What does that mean? Yeah, what does it even mean to be an entrepreneur? Does it mean to have a lot of money? Does it mean to drive a big car? Does it mean to have a business with 10,000 people? What does it mean? You know? And then we look, how many corporate or company people in here? Hand up. Yes, yes. Don't be shy. Don't be very good. Okay? The last part is for you is the question, how can we leverage entrepreneurship in our organizations? It's just a brief overview. It's just a brief overview, but hopefully you'll discover something in there that you can take away for yourself. My understanding is the slides are available to you afterwards as well, yeah? Excellent, great. Okay, so let's kick off. Are we good to go? You guys are awake? Yes? Okay, let's try. All right, let's look into the business context. So, I like to interact with you guys. What's happening out there? What's happening? Why would I have 35 minutes to talk. Why would I spend 10 minutes talking to you about the business context out there? What's happening out there? Who wants to try? What's happening out there in the world? Yes, the hand is up in the back. Go for it. Revolution. What kind of revolution? Digital revolution. Yes, what's part of that? Digital revolution. What's part of that? What's happening there? Everyone's got an iPhone. What's part of the digital revolution? Yes, in the back again. Say again? Sharing information. Absolutely. Why are you guys sitting in the back? You should be in the front. Sharing information. Absolutely. What does that do? Connect people, yeah? Exchange. That's all the positive stuff. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Very good. If I look at it, this is right. We have people connecting. We're sharing information. Lots of information out there. It's positive. Everyone's got access to the internet. Everyone knows what Cristiano Ronaldo is wearing this morning on Instagram. Exactly. But also, basically what you're saying, revolution. Yes, number 1, the world's changing. That's about as deep as we go here. Okay? That's the intellectual level we've got. But you're already saying people are connecting. What's the downside of it or the difficult bit of it? Yes. Privacy is a big issue, absolutely. But even from an organizational point of view, one huge issue is, guys, the complexity and the speed in the world that we're experiencing around us today is the highest we've ever seen. The complexity and the speed we have seen in the world around us today is the highest we've ever experienced. The highest. Okay? Little anecdote, little data straight from Google. From 2012 to 2014, in 2 years, we produced as much data as in all of human's history. That means not just the last 5,000 years, but the last 70,000 years of recorded human history. If you take all the libraries, all the books, everything we've ever recorded, in those 2 years, we created more data than in those what, 70,000 years of human history. Okay? 2017, how long do you think we take to create exactly that same amount of data? Give me a shot. Give me a best shot. 3 months. 3 months. 1 month. Guys, you're crazy. 2 days. 2 days. 2 days. Today we produce the same amount of data in 2 days, okay? That means, what does that mean? Complexity for us. Human beings can only manage a certain amount of complexity. Have you guys ever seen that video on YouTube? American scientists put this up. It's 6 guys in white throwing around a couple balls. Have you ever seen that? The video goes for 3 minutes. Check it out. I will tell you what to YouTube in a moment. Yeah, you've seen it, right? 6 guys stand in a circle. They're throwing balls at each other for 3 minutes. Then it asks you at the beginning of the video, watch attentively. Watch attentively. So you're watching the video you're watching, and the video is over and it says, did you pay attention? Yes. Okay, did you see the monkey that walked through the screen? No. So it says, watch again. So you watch again, slow motion, what do you see? A guy in a gorilla costume, walking, dancing, and moving out of the picture again. Why does that work? Because the human brain can only manage so much complexity before we have to start filtering stuff out. You understand? So this is a great opportunity, but also a great problem. We have more complexity than ever, which means we have less visibility than ever. Before I could plan for 10 years and then make my plan happen. Now it's a little bit more difficult because not only is it complex, but it's also fast. That means I have to work a lot harder to sort things out. And once I've sorted them, they've already changed. Okay? So that's one of the challenges. One of the drivers of our changing times. Okay? Secondly, you already mentioned new technologies. Our new technologies, what's so special about the technologies today? Okay? What's special about them is they're challenging not just new technologies, not just add-ons, but the infrastructural technologies. That means infrastructure, infra from underneath, they're technologies that affect the basic structure of our society and the way we do business. Okay? And they are challenging our structures and they're creating new possibilities. What do I mean? Do you guys know Uber, the company Uber? Ever heard of Uber? Who's heard of Uber? Hand up. Who's heard of Airbnb? Hand up. Yeah, good. Uber. What's Uber? What does Uber do? Right? Uber claims to be the #1 mobility company in the world. They provide cab services around the world. You're in Delhi or in Berlin or in London or in San Francisco, no problem. You take out the Uber app, you press a button, and boom, the car is there. How many cars does Uber own? 0. Okay, what about Airbnb? How many homes does Airbnb own? 0. Maybe a hotel somewhere in San Francisco they're experimenting with. That's it. Okay? So what these new technologies are doing, they're shifting the power from the asset owner to the channel owner. Whoever owns the platform's got the power. That's a total revolution because before we all would hold on to resources. But the resources themselves now don't matter anymore. It's the connections that matter. Okay? I consult a big insurance company in Germany. And when I asked the managers, we had the board of directors in the other day, and I asked them, what's the problem with today's business context? They all put their hand up, they say, too much capital. I say, give me some if it's too much. Yeah? But what they mean is not too much capital. What they mean is capital is no longer the thing of competitive advantage. It's the connections you build between dots that make the difference. Okay? So, new technologies are challenging the way we do business. Third, our consumers are changing. The attitudes of our consumers are changing. Not just the attitudes of our consumers, but the attitudes of our employees are changing. We're talking about millennials here. Have you heard that term before, millennials? Yeah? Millennials are people who are born between 1980 and 2000, I think, so pretty broad span. Why are they relevant? Because their value system, the way they look at the world, the way they look at themselves, the way they understand their role in society is completely different to the generations before us. They have a totally disruptive value system. Check this out. This is a report that was brought out by the US Chamber of Commerce. It's called the the Millennial Research Review. That's what it's called. Millennial Generation Research Review. They asked something like 8,000 millennials around the world. 92% believe that business should be measured by more than just profit. Ask my generation. We say, where's the money, man? I remember the first year I finished an entrepreneurship course at Cass Business School in London was in 2008. And we concluded the year, 11 lectures, 33 hours, beautiful. We covered everything, value creation, this, that, blah, blah, blah. At the end, I felt super satisfied. And I asked my students, we finished, any more questions? And everyone sits there. And then one Russian guy puts their hand up and I say, yes. And he says, sir, how do I make money? We didn't talk about this, yeah? Okay, but now the generations, 92%, it's not that profit doesn't matter. It's just profit is not the only thing that matters to this generation. Number two, 61% feel personally responsible to make a positive impact on society and environment. Yeah, 61% feel personally responsible. And 51% want to go entrepreneurial in the near future. 51%. Now, I think that's an amicable number. That's a very brave number. But it also tells you what the business world, especially for our corporate guys here, what the business world currently is struggling with. We're struggling to retain this talent. Yeah? Okay? So, I've showed you those three, and then you've already mentioned it. What's underlying all of this is the increasing networkification, the increasing building up of networks in our society, whether that's online, Facebook, etc., or whether that's offline, the global economy really being truly global in a sense. Okay? So, and often we look at these trends and we call them, as you call them, digitalization. But to me, I don't like to think of it as digitalization because the term digitalization only describes the making digital of analog processes. It's too narrow. Really what we're looking at a new way of organizing society in networks, which is why I like to talk about the network revolution in a sense. What's so particular about this time, the network revolution? Okay? A couple things. Number one, in the network revolution, the focus is on relationships, not on assets anymore. So the relationship is where the value is, not the assets. Little anecdote. Do you guys know WhatsApp? Everyone uses WhatsApp? Yes, great. I don't like that app, but good. If you try to reach me, don't try on WhatsApp with it, right? It's very difficult, very difficult. No matter what channel, it's hard. Okay, so you guys know SpaceX? Elon Musk company SpaceX. They built the world's most advanced rockets that fly into space, built the first rocket that can go into space, come back, and then go up again. NASA said it's impossible. Elon Musk made it happen, right? Okay, now, you remember WhatsApp got sold a couple years ago to Facebook? Do you remember that? How much did they pay for WhatsApp? 19 billion what? Dollars? $24 billion, 19 billion euros, exactly. $24 billion, right? WhatsApp, great. SpaceX, valuation of SpaceX, current market cap of SpaceX, do you know? Yes, exactly, 13 billion. Think about this. There's one man that builds the most advanced rockets on this planet that has contracts with the Russians, with the Chinese, with the Americans, like the United Nations of space travel, okay? Right? And his company is valued at 13 billion. And WhatsApp, an amazing innovation, I can send you a text from one phone to another, amazing, is worth 24 billion. How come? What makes WhatsApp so valuable? Is it the secret code? We found a way to send text faster. Huh? Is it the app or the colors? The design is immaculate, everyone loves it. What makes it so valuable? What? The context, exactly, the network underneath. The people and the connectedness, the degree of connectedness between the people. That means the smart, what we call the smart money, the big investors, have already understood the value is no longer in the assets, the value is now in the relationships. That's a big deal because that means the power structure is being reshuffled and that means the doors are open for a redistribution. Okay? That means it's no better time than today to become entrepreneurial. All right? So, because relationships are more valuable, what we do is basically we try to connect more, which means that hierarchies are starting to flatten out. Okay? Hierarchies are starting to flatten out. There's no such top to bottom thing anymore in the business. Not only top to bottom, but also where's the boundary between my business and the market? That's also starting to blur. That's also starting to blur. Okay? Which means that in our systems, because they're flatter, we have now the possibility for more participation. In a network age, there's the need for more participation because of the complexity, right? So the one thing that can kill you in a network is if you're passive. That's the thing that can kill you in a network, okay? But because there's more participation, there's also need for more awareness. What am I contributing towards? What am I participating in? Okay? Generally, networks push towards openness, transparency, and access. When I showed that line in Montenegro, a sniper from the back almost shot me. Okay? Openness, transparency, access. It's pushing towards it, right? And in networks, because they're so complex, we can no longer manage them top down. We need a certain degree of self-organization. That means we need a certain degree of trust. Okay? This is the environment we're moving into. This is not a local thing. This is a global thing. It's no different in the US or Albania or Afghanistan or China. It's the same thing all around the world. That's where we're moving into. At different paces, but it's the same thing all around the world. Okay? So, and in this environment, this is for the corporate people, in this environment, mechanical organizations really struggle to survive. What's a mechanical organization? A mechanical organization is an organization that is structured according to the principle of the machine. How many of you work for a big company here? Hand up. Okay, see if you recognize any of this. What makes a mechanical organization? A mechanical organization is organized in vertical hierarchies. One brain, many limbs. One person that thinks on top, everyone else that executes. Okay? Mechanical organizations are organized in linear processes. That means predictability. A leads to B leads to C. They're set up to be plannable. Corporate planning, 5 years ahead. Okay? Right? They usually want to build up bigger scale. Bigger is better. Okay? They have a high degree of specialization, so a certain degree of ghettoization of mindset. That means we have people focusing on their job and they don't know what else is happening around them. Okay? In general, they're closed circuits because they believe the values in the asset, so they close off their asset. They build up walls around their assets, and they make it difficult to connect to them. Okay? And in general, they have reductionistic metrics. Usually they measure success only by one measure, which is the one thing that measures all success is what? Profit. Yeah, money, not just money, but the money that's left. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Okay? And these organizations struggle in the new context. Why? Because they're not agile enough to suitably deal with the speed and the complexity around the environment. They're set up to plan. But in this complex environment, planning, you make your plan, and by then the whole world has changed already. Okay? I think it was Mike Tyson who said, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. Right? So here you're planning, boom, and the environment is punching you in the face. Number one. Number two, they're not open enough to suitably deal with the customer of this new context. Because the customer wants more access, more transparency. They want to be participating, not just passively consuming. Okay? And number three, and maybe most importantly, especially for you guys, yeah, is that these structures are not flexible enough to deal with the changing attitudes in the employee class. Okay? So, I'm not saying that organizations that organize like this can't survive in the network age. They can, but they can't really thrive in the network age. You'll always be one step behind. Okay? So, what to do? Suggestion: reorganize according to the metaphor of the network. What's part of that? What's part of that? You already know what that means. Let me show you. It means focus on relationships inside of your organization. Don't just focus on hierarchies. Don't just focus on, I am a manager, you're an employee. Create connections. Okay? Flatten out hierarchies accordingly. Qualify, demand, and facilitate participation. Guys, this is for the corporates. We get to the students in a moment. Okay? Right? Flatter hierarchies, more participation. Demand and enable participation. Okay? Enable awareness. Give information. Let people know what they're contributing towards. Yeah? And cultivate openness, transparency, and access in your systems. Okay. Why? If we do this, we get systems that are more responsive, that are more innovative, that are more creative. I'm not saying better, I'm saying more. I'm not saying they are better in innovation, they are better with their creativity, they have more. But more usually is better in this case. Okay? More usually is better in this case. Right? And they're more resilient. That means if a shock in the environment happens, they are more likely to manage it and survive. Yeah? Okay, this whole concept of too big to fail, long past. Good. In other words, all right, we need to redesign our organizations not to manage value anymore, value that's already there, manage value. We need to redesign them to create value. Yeah, what startups do, to create value. What's the difference? Creating value is I take eggs, flour, sugar, chocolate, and I bake a new cake. And managing value is I make sure I get the biggest slice of the cake mama just made. You understand? The cake's already there. How do we get the biggest piece? Okay? Creating value is I bake a new cake. And this creating value is what I call entrepreneurship. So we need entrepreneurs, not managers. In organizations, right? In organizations and in society. I say not managers, why? Because the term already has it. A manager manages systems that are already there. A manager manages value that's already there. An entrepreneur creates value, right? Right? So, but now we get to the word entrepreneur. You've heard the word before. Someone said to me yesterday, in the former communist countries, entrepreneurship is the antichrist word. You know, you throw that in and it's, you know, it used to be anyway, right? It used to be anyway. So what does that mean? What is it to be an entrepreneur? What does that mean? Anyone knows where the word is from, entrepreneur? You know, yeah, say again? French. You know the second greatest president of the United States of America that ever lived, George W. Bush, famously once said, the problem with the French is that they do not have a word for entrepreneurship. But yes, the word is French. And what does it mean? Entre. Anyone who speaks French? Entre? Enter or? Je suis entre deux choix. I'm in between. Between, right? And prendre? Take. So, take between, right? Literally, the word means take in between. Take in between what? Entrepreneurship literally means to take the space between how something is and how something could be and realizing that. That's what the term literally means, entrepreneurship. Taking the space in between how something is and how something could be and realizing that. Okay? Does that mean I need to do that in a business? Does that mean I can only do this with my business? No, I can do this in life. I can do this in my family. I can do this in business. I can do this in society. I can do this with myself. In my entrepreneurship courses, my students have to choose a personal goal, personal entrepreneurial goal, whether that's losing weight or stopping to smoke, okay, or falling in love or getting married if I would do it here, okay, right? It doesn't matter, but because that's entrepreneurship also, okay? Most of us don't associate this with ourselves, but this is what entrepreneurship is. So what do I have to be able to do for this? What do I have to be able to do this? First thing I need to do. First thing I need to know. Before I know this, I can't do anything. What do I need to be able to know? First thing I need to do. Information of what? How it is, exactly. I need to be able to, you can't see it, but it says challenge the status quo. I need to know where am I, what's around me, and I need to be willing to challenge what's there. Not just to challenge in the back of my mind or behind closed doors, but actually proactively challenge what's there. How could it be better? What is wrong? Okay? And this is not easy because we don't like to bite the hand that feeds us. This is not easy. Let me show you. Have you ever seen this handsome man? You know who he is? This is Thomas Watson Jr. He was the president of IBM in the 60s and 70s. IBM at that time was the biggest tech company in the world, the number one computing company in the world. They sold they were the number one for selling computing hardware, computing systems around the world. And the man famously said in the late 60s, early 70s, he said, I think there's maybe a market for 5 personal computers in the world. Why does he say that? What was he selling? He was selling mainframe computers that filled entire basements. Yeah? Personal computer disrupted his business model. Of course he's not going to look at that because he doesn't want to challenge the status quo because he's good where he is. Yeah? Do you know that Apple every 3 or 4 years releases all of their patents into the public domain? Do you know that? You know why Apple does that? Not because they love humanity and they want to contribute. They do this because it forces them to think fresh. Right? So we need to be willing and ready to challenge the status quo. This guy wasn't able to do it. So now I'm challenging the status quo. This is wrong, there's corruption here, this guy is always, what is he wearing? Why is he wearing that? Am I now an entrepreneur? Is this an entrepreneur? The light here could be different. Why is the camera flying around? Am I an entrepreneur? No, what am I? I'm a criticizer, I'm a complainer, I'm not yet an entrepreneur. Okay? It's not enough to just complain. What else do I need to do? I need to provide a solution. I need to provide something, an alternative of how it could be. I need to be able to envision what other thing it could be. And again, this is not easy because we tell ourselves, oh, I don't have the money, I don't have the power, I don't have the family, I don't have the relationships, I didn't sleep well last night, I'm a little hungry, I'll do it later, okay? We don't dare, often, we don't recognize our own power. We don't dare to believe that we can shape reality around ourselves. And we find excuses to live up to this power. All of us have it. But we find excuses not to live up to this power. Right? That's not easy. Do you know who this guy is? Yes, of course, everyone knows him, right? Do you know who this guy is? Really, do you know who this guy is? This guy is the son of a Syrian immigrant to America. Okay? Given up for adoption as a baby. So his mother said, I can't afford college for him, so I'm going to give him to a family that can. She gave him away, and the state gave him to a family that could barely afford college for him. Right? This is who this guy is. He went to Berkeley College, and he dropped out after 6 months because he didn't like it. He thinks it's a waste of money. I can't blame him, to be honest. But, right? So, and from there, he stayed, because he didn't have a place to go, he stayed in the dormitory, he slept in the dormitory of his friend's student apartment. And then one day, this guy thought about computers and he said, well, actually the true story is one day he took some LSD and he tripped out and he looked around and he said, wow. But this is important. Why do I mention this? You can watch this on YouTube, an interview with him. He said, I realized that the world around me was created by people no better or no smarter than me. He said, I realized in that moment that the world around me was created by people no better and no smarter than me. And so then he went back and he said, oh, computers are like bicycles for the mind. Have you ever heard that sentence? Yeah? What does that mean? Yeah, he said, he read in a study that the human being, in terms of locomotion, as in how do we translate energy into movement, we are below average on the planet. Below average. Other animals are a lot more efficient than we are. But you take a human being on a bicycle, okay? And the human being is not just more efficient than the human being walking, but the human being is many-fold more efficient than the condor, the most efficient creature on this planet. Right? So he had this dream. He said, computers are bicycles for the mind. Right? Okay. Now, I have a vision. I go out into the desert. I don't eat or drink for 6 months. I have a vision. I see a vision. I say, the world can be beautiful. Am I now an entrepreneur? I'm thirsty, yes. What am I? I'm not an entrepreneur. What am I? I'm a dreamer, exactly. What do I need to do in order to be an entrepreneur? I need to do it, exactly, right? I need to go out and do it. Okay, it's not enough to complain. It's not enough to look at what's not right. It's not enough to just have a vision, an idea. We have to go out and do it. Okay, we have to go out and do it. And then great things can happen. Okay, great things can happen. But for that, we have to trust our own power. So the question is, who can do that? Who can do that? Yeah, me, I, say I. You know, I make my managers, like in church, I have them say I, you know? Right? Who can do it in this room? Tell me, I want to hear it. I need to turn down a little bit, right? Let me sit down, try that again. Mirse Kenyar. How many of you can do it, honestly? Yeah, you know, I have to tell you a story. I was invited by the Montenegrin government to speak in front of our 200 most talented young people. So that means half of the nation, okay? Right? So they invite me, they said, entrepreneurship, give a talk. I came for 3 hours. I felt very proud. I talked. You know, Milo Djukanovic sitting somewhere in the back, doing something, not listening. Anyway, I'm talking. I'm finished. I feel great. A student, a young, beautiful girl, 22, 23, puts up her hand and says, Professor, thank you so much. Now I understand that the world can be transformed, that we have the power to do it, that we can make things better. And I get so excited and say, yes, and who can do it? And she says, the next generation. Okay? So I ask you again, who can do it? Thank you, brother. Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Jesus Christ. I don't even know if the mic is still working. I'm so loud. Okay. So, but I can understand you hesitate. Why? Because we were told in the 90s to be an entrepreneur, you have to have the gene. Either you are or you're not. You have the gene. You're an entrepreneur. Either you're risk thirsty or you're not. Either you jump off a plane from 30,000 feet and have someone throw you the parachute right after you and hope you know, or you're not an entrepreneur. But that's total crap. That's total crap. We know today that's crap because there's no red thread between entrepreneurs in different countries. I can't say, oh, every entrepreneur. Americans once had this theory that people with big jaws are better entrepreneurs. Because alpha male. Complete crap. You know what's the only thing that can kind of indicate if someone is likely to have entrepreneurial success or not, and it's a tiny indication, is immigrant children are more likely to succeed as entrepreneurs. And you know why? Because I tell you why. Because they have what we call cognitive flexibility. That means they can take different perspectives. Okay, they can see, they know that the world around them is not fixed the way it is. So in a way, forgive me if I say this, you guys are primed to be wonderful entrepreneurs because you live in a country that is constantly changing. You know reality is shapeable. You just need to realize you can do it. So what makes entrepreneurship then? What makes the entrepreneur is not the jaw, yeah, it's not the genes. What makes it is the mindset. How do I approach the world? How do I approach the world? How do I approach myself in the world? That's what makes the difference. That's what makes the entrepreneur. So what's part of this? Let me show you. How much time do I have left?
10 minutes.
Oh! Okay. How does it go? Entrepreneurial mindset. What's part of it? Again, I told you, I'm going to show you. This is very simple, but this is very difficult to live. I'll show you. Okay? Number one, what's part of this? Number one, I have to have, this is an attitude question. This is not an ability question. This is a question of your attitude. Okay? Number one, the willingness to experiment. What does this mean? It means the willingness to step into an action of which I don't know the result yet. And being okay with doing that. Yes? Taking risks, that's part of it. But you know, it's more about a person. You don't have to jump off a cliff to be an entrepreneur. You know? You don't. I have a manager that I work with. He's a CTO of a big food company in Germany. And we got stuck on this point, willing to accept, in my job you can't experiment. I said, forget your job. I told him, give me your wife's number, I'm gonna call her. And I called his wife and I told him, every week, every Saturday, you have to take him to something he's never done before. So she takes him to the opera, to the zoo. Yeah? But that's also experimentation. You don't have to drive down the street with 250 and say, I'm experimenting. You know, this is already, leave your comfort zone. Yeah? But we don't do it because we're afraid of the repercussions. What's going to happen if I leave my comfort zone? What are people going to say? What if I don't succeed? Okay? Number two, the ability to act in a purpose-orientated manner. Most of us say, yes, I do this. Goal-oriented. Yes, yes, I do this. But whose goal really? Is it about the thing or is it about your ego? Right? Ego, very often. So as an entrepreneur, I cannot afford to follow my ego. Why? Because I invest the little money I have into my project, and if it doesn't work and I say, but my ego says it should, I'm going to be broke. I have to do what works. We speak about visionary pragmatism. Have a vision, but be pragmatic. Okay? So the willingness to act purpose-orientated. Okay? And that also means the willingness to go into conflict if someone around you is not acting purpose-orientated. Conflict from Latin means to strike together, to show one another what you stand for. That's what conflict means. Okay? Third, the willingness to embrace learning opportunities is corporate language to say the willingness to learn from your mistakes. Now, let me tell you what that doesn't mean. Okay? Early 2000, IBM hired a new CEO, and the guy said, at that time in Silicon Valley, there was this big discussion about, you know, we have to increase our failure rate in companies. Failure helps us learn. We need to. So the guy came and he said, whoever wants to succeed in my company has to double their rate of mistakes. Exactly. Right? And what do you think happened? The guy lost his job after 3 months. And you know why? Because they put up a new metric. How many mistakes did you make this month? And what do people do? They went around and said, oh, I made a mistake. Oops. Whoa, hey, mistakes everywhere. Yeah? It's not about making stupid mistakes. It's not about that. The difficult bit is not to make a mistake that I'm okay making anyway. The difficult bit, when we talk about learning from mistakes, is when I try to do something right and it goes wrong, to then pick up that mistake and look at it in the face and learn from it, that's the difficult bit. Because the ego says, nah, better not. But you know, if you put it under the carpet, you know what the mistake makes? You know what it does? Have you heard the sentence, karma's a bitch? Right? You know what it does? It crawls out on the other side, it comes back, and it hits you in the face again. So this is better for you as well. But it's not easy. Look at your mistakes and learn from them. And last but not least, the willingness to engage with uncertainty. Yeah? Most of us are afraid of uncertainty. Most of us are afraid of uncertainty. It paralyzes us. Do I still have time for a little stories, okay? Yeah, I think so, right? Yeah, good. So when I was 17, I moved to New York City all by myself. I used to play basketball. And my basketball coaches, they gave me an apartment, a flat in English, yeah, British English flat, apartment. They gave me an apartment and they gave me some money. And I arrived in New York on a Friday night in my apartment, all by myself, Lower East Side, 17 years old. I had a fake ID from Florida that said I was 21. And I said, tonight I'm gonna go crazy. Sorry, Dad. Now you know, okay? And everyone else on YouTube, right? So, and at that time also I had a little, you know the Palm Pilots, the first smartphones of this planet, they were little devices, and they had an app on there called the Zagat app, which gave you all the restaurants and the bars and the cafes in New York City. So I got ready, put on perfume, made my hair decked, then I still had hair, you know, gelled my hair for 2 hours, had to look perfect, you know, put on my coat, leave the house. I get out my little Palm Pilot, and I say, Zagat app, show me the bars and cafes around me. And I click, go, and it gives back some 5,200 cafes and bars and clubs. Okay? So I'm like, that's too many. Let me narrow it down to 1 kilometer radius. And I hit, and it still has like 900. So I start to read. Review after review. And I read and I read. And what do you think happened then? I stood there for 45 minutes reading reviews. In the end, I said, to hell with it. I'm going to go watch TV. Went back upstairs. Because that's what uncertainty does to us. Because it paralyzes us. We don't dare to take that first step. You know, my sister always says so beautifully, you can't look beyond the horizon. To see beyond the horizon, you take a step towards it. But if we don't know the goal, often we don't want to act. But that's not how it works. That's not how entrepreneurship works. Because the goal is always at the other end of the horizon. Right? So the willingness to embrace uncertainty is key. When you do this, you develop the competence. When you do this, you develop the competence of what we call self-generate, self-reflect, and self-correct. What does that mean? The ability to self-generate means the ability to come up with a goal, to come up with an action, and to move into that action towards that goal. The ability to self-reflect means to see, is that goal still appropriate? Is my action still appropriate? And is the way I'm acting still appropriate? And if it's wrong, then the last bit, the ability to self-correct, means I can adjust it and correct it. And this is what we associate with entrepreneurship. This is what it means to be entrepreneurial. Okay? So, how many millennials in this room? Hand up. Really? And everyone else is from what, 1960?
What's wrong with that?
You guys are a good generation, I can't argue. But you're not part of that anyway. What are you, 82? Okay. Guys, the millennials, you know, I hear managers say all the time, I hear corporations say, oh, they're lazy, they don't want to work, they don't want to do this, they don't want to do that. I say, you just don't know how to handle them. You just don't know how to handle them. Because this generation, the millennials, actually the most entrepreneurial and loyal, okay, and how you say, diligent generation in a long time. The problem is, they don't jump for the old. You can't get them to action anymore just by offering them some money. You have to show them, what are you working on? What am I contributing towards? Okay? You have to be there. You have to communicate with them. All right? But your generation, also, we have the toughest business environment a young generation could have ever had. I don't know if you feel it here. I can tell you in Germany, we all feel it. It's the toughest we've ever had. The toughest. Because the global system is such that we have 2 stages now, low and high. Either you're up or you're down. Right? So it's easy to withdraw and say, I am powerless in this world. And to lean back and watch Netflix. But the truth is your generation actually is set up in the perfect manner with a great environment also, because things are changing. We've established this at the beginning, to exactly live that entrepreneurial power. The question is, will you do it or not? And I leave you with this question because I know I'm out of time. Okay? I'll leave you with this question, and the corporate partners that are here, you'll get the slides, you'll see what's in there for you. Okay? So thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you.